All right, we are live. Welcome to another Sunday live stream on the Practical IT channel. I am Jeremy, your host, and today we are going to take a look at the daily release development edition of what will become Ubuntu 22.10. Now, this is or will be a short-term release. And usually about this time in the development cycle, about the end of August, for an October release, I like to take a look at the progress and see what is happening, what's new, what I should be looking forward to, and whether I can make a recommendation for Ubuntu. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my screen, and if all else fails, then this might be a short broadcast today. So, all right. That's not the screen I want to show. Let's come back over here. All right. And I will put myself in the corner. All right. So this is a brand new install of Ubuntu 22.10. Kinetic Kudu is the code name for it. I did the install just before the live stream. I've not even logged into it. So we will see how this all works out for us. While that is doing its thing, I want to check. So the QEMU agent is currently disabled, so we'll install that and then we'll reboot and enable this, or shut down and enable this rather, and it'll be all good. Okay, so we're going to skip that. Don't need to send data to Canonical. And we'll skip that as well. And that's all good. Okay, so first thing I do on a new system, development version or not, is to chain these commands together and let it run, and we can do some other things while that's running in the background. So we have a familiar menu, or at least if you've been using Ubuntu, it's a familiar menu. We are going to cancel that because our updates are all running here. And that's all good. All right, so activities, again, get you sort of that desktop switching view. That's all good. So this is purported to be one of the changes. We've got some different options in here. Now, from the article I looked at in the last couple of days, this gap here on the left side is meant for laptop users, and this is supposed to be where the battery meter information will go. Not sure I like this look. It feels out of balance. I mean, these icons could get centered if it's running on a desktop system or something. You can change whether you're in balanced or power save mode, which again is a laptop feature. Got some network stuff. wired settings, which is going to trigger network manager. And that's all good here. We can, of course, do different things with the networking. And I have to say, this is so much more straightforward than what you get in Windows 10 and 11 and have to dig through different places to even get to the proper networking controls. Okay, so apparently our updates are done just that quick, so I'm going to shut this down just for a moment. And we're going to enable the QEMU guest agent. And then we'll start it back up. Now, one of the benefits of having the QEMU guest agent installed, for those of you who are newer to Proxmox, one of the benefits is that once it's booted up, your IP address will show up here in the summary screen for the VM. And so if we wanted to connect to this with an SSH client or something like that, then this gives us information where we can do that. Maybe not the handiest thing for a desktop install, but when you get to running Ubuntu server and multiple instances of Ubuntu server, it does come in handy. Oh. Come on. There we go. All right, so jump back to summary a minute. So that all looks good. Okay. We can change the display settings. I don't think this has changed. Say we do 1440 by 900. Doesn't make a huge difference, but it gives us a little bit of extra real estate, even if it's scaled down to fit in this window. So yeah, this is not bad. If we come over, okay, so let's take a look at this debug point article. And I will drop this into chat just for grins. Okay, so a new settings panel in Ubuntu 22.10 Kinetic Kudu consolidates the desktop options. Here's how it looks. The appearance tab used to have light and dark theme switchers and accent colors. And now we've got the Ubuntu desktop setting. So if we come back over here, Ubuntu desktop size, normal, position of new icons, bottom right. Okay. Show personal folder. I'm going to turn that off. What do we have here? Okay, not sure if that's working. We'll go with it. That could be for, well, that's supposed to be for desktop icons. Oh, there it is. So generally, I'm not a fan of icons on the desktop, so I'm going to go ahead and hide that. All right, so icon size, we can bring that down a few positions. Show on primary display, all displays, Red Hat 15 inch. Okay. So we'll leave that alone. Dock position on screen, you can change that to the bottom, of course. And dock behavior, include unmounted volumes and include network volumes. Interesting. I'm going to put that back to the left side. I don't like that at the bottom. Okay. So that is another of the new features. And let's see, the background tab, which enables you to choose wallpapers, goes to the appearance tab. Come here, appearance, and look at that. We can get something other than the default. This looks pretty nice. Old paved road in a field headed towards the mountains. All right. Okay, so that is great. That, I think, does improve the usability of the whole thing. Furthermore, this change effectively brings the Gnome Control Center 42 for this release. However, Gnome 43 should be released before October. Okay, so this is not Gnome 43 at this point, apparently. Okay, according to the author, firmly believe Ubuntu 22.10 should feature Gnome 43 as it will be released before beta on September 22nd. So again, this is still a daily or an alpha class release. So yeah. Okay, other noteworthy changes. Pushes technology ahead with some exciting changes. Pipewire sound server will be default for the first time, which is the modern replacement for good old Pulse Audio. Legacy WPA supplicant wireless module is changing and being replaced by a more modern IWD iNet wireless daemon. This was developed by Intel and is now mature enough to arrive in Ubuntu. It has certain advantages and more features over WPA supplicant. Other than that, usual toolchain, core packages, and latest kernel. All right, so that is the briefing on the changes here. If we come down to the bottom to about, we have, this is currently running Wayland, which is okay for this particular run through the VM. I will likely switch it back to X for future logins and see where we can go. Hello, Tech for Fun. How are you doing today? So, yeah, not too bad. In fact, let's log out. And just for the sake of argument, switch this to Xorg. And see what we can do. All right. Oh, Joe, you deleted your channel. Was that on purpose, or do you have some secret that secret plan that you haven't divulged? Uh, that's interesting. There have definitely been times when I've thought about deleting my channel, but I've never pulled the trigger on it. So, how are things with you? It's been a while since I've had the opportunity to catch up with you a bit. So, Ubuntu 22.10. Well, so far, at least in a VM, it seems pretty stable. Couple things I can point out from the install. My first install in a VM failed for whatever reason. It would get to the logo screen and it would just lock there. Well, hey, as long as I gave her a good laugh at the concept, that's all good, I guess. It was on purpose. I decided I wasn't passionate about it anymore. Yeah, I've been at this for what, about 5 years now. I've not hit 4,000 subscribers yet. There are days that I'm not passionate about it, if I'm completely honest. But I always seem to talk myself out of deleting it and pursuing something else. I'm not sure what I would do to fill the time. And I feel like I've got to keep going because of the investment I've made in equipment. It's at this point, given what I'm making on the channel, it's an expensive hobby. I'm hoping to see it blossom into something larger, but it takes a lot of energy to do this, and as you well know, and if you've got something that you're more passionate about, kudos to you for that. I was doing a lot of computer repair stuff before the plague hit, and that pretty much dried up over the past couple of years, and that I've definitely lost my passion for in the bigger scheme of things. Um, I'm happy to know how to do it, and I will continue to do all my own computer repair until such a point in my life where my uh, eyesight or uh, any other physical ailments I may develop may prevent me from doing so. But right now I'm able to do that, and it's saved me a boatload of money over the last 3 decades, I guess. Day job has been very stressful. A lot of late nights. Time is limited. Getting stressed that I wasn't producing content. Yeah, I definitely feel that. I've not been producing uh, pre-recorded content the way I once did, and I do feel a level of guilt and shame about that. But as we're going, hopefully, starting to get into some cooler weather, I'm hoping that I will feel a little more reinvigorated to start recording some more stuff. I'm also thinking more seriously about doing a class on Thinkific or Teachable. I think those are the two that I was suggested. And do sort of a couple of classes, maybe one using Rescuezilla and the other one doing Fog. Even though there's a bit of a question about the future of Fog, and if the new release that they claim is coming out this fall actually hits, then I will feel a little better about doing a course on that, a sort of intro 100 level course on that. The one thing that I've stuck to, with the exception of a couple of Sundays, is I've kept the live stream going. And that has sort of been my lifeline, just to keep content on the channel. And August has actually been a pretty good month for views and gaining subscribers. So even with only, I think, 2 pre-recorded videos this month, and just doing the live streams each week, it's still growing the channel. So that would be cool to do a class. Honestly, I would pay for a class you taught on intro to intermediate Linux, like commands, etc., and CLI. That's a good idea. I know there are a lot of those out there, but a lot of them I find tend to be taught by folks with a thick Indian accent. And, I know there's a market for that, so don't get me wrong on that. But, sometimes the accents are thick enough that it's hard to get through the accent and just, get the most you can out of the class. You've done well with your channel. Don't let me influence you out of it. No, I'm like I said, I've considered on a few occasions, but and I don't know how accurate this is, in all honesty, but when I look at my future projections over here. This is socialblade.com. And, you know, at the end of February of next year, I'll be over 5,000 subscribers, which is where I was hoping to be by the end of this year, but life, you know. um, I I don't know. I use this not so much for the supposed accuracy and the predictions, but just more as a way to um, keep myself somewhat motivated to see how quickly I can push towards these numbers. You know, the thing that has me intrigued is that um, it has me hitting 6 months from today, I'll be over 5,000 subscribers. But then before the end of 2023, this is saying that I'll be over 10,000. So, you know, I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious to see if I can pull that off. Um, you know, maybe this growth spurt is right around the corner. Um, so you know that's I guess a motivator for me is just you know continuing to look at those numbers. Um, you're easy to understand and have a teaching background and a master's degree. Yes, I do. I taught IT courses for 4 years, and you know my this channel came about because the vocational college I was teaching at, they did a diploma level and an associate's level program. And they were not really, other than what it's mentioned in the A plus prep, they were not exposing students to Linux until they got to the associate's level. And my thought was, you know, I wanted to see it brought in more on the ground floor and, you know, taught alongside Windows with the, you know, my philosophy is that, you know, from a purely desktop user standpoint, uh, you should be able to, as a computer user, sit down in front of Windows, Mac OS, or Linux and just using prior experience and a little bit of logic, make your way around the operating systems with relative ease. Now, that's not to say you're going to be a power user in all three right away, but everybody knows how to use a mouse and move a mouse pointer on a screen. You know, the using Ubuntu as an example, this 9 dot grid looks a lot like what you see on a mobile device. And so people know that's a menu. Icons, yeah, they're on the left hand side instead of on the bottom of the screen like Mac OS and Windows, but everybody recognizes icons and knows that you can hover over them to get told what they are. You know, there's a clock in all of them. There's, you know, some sort of a quote unquote tray in all of them. And Mac OS and Linux, at least Ubuntu, it tends to be in the upper right hand corner. In Windows, it's in the lower right hand corner. Again, not rocket science. It's just, you know, to me, this all boils down to the scientific method that, here in the States we all learned in like seventh grade. You know, first part starts with making an observation. you know, it just, it just boggles my mind sometimes how people can be so scared of things that they don't need to be scared of. And it's yeah, I guess that's sort of the far background on how this channel came about. I wanted to offer extra resources to my students that fell outside of the curriculum of the vocational college where I was teaching. Now that it's been 4 years since I taught in that sort of environment. Yes, my work at the library still involves some teaching, but usually those are, sort of one-off uh, classes that, it's a focused concept, and you know it's usually 90 minutes, in and out 90 minutes. Um, and I keep thinking that, a class would allow me to flesh out some of the ideas, and instead of just putting up multiple videos in a series sort of thing on YouTube, I could, be able to add additional context, provide examples, things of that nature that maybe I haven't always done the best job of doing that in a linear fashion on YouTube. But um, yeah, I haven't looked for your channel on Social Blade, so I'm not entirely sure on that one. I think your philosophy on understanding OSs is a great point. Yeah, I mean, I can't claim that I was the one to come up with it. Um, but I think, people that work in IT that are involved in things the way I have been or have followed a similar path. I've run into a few people that have had a similar sort of philosophy. My analogy that I used to use in classes is that, you know if you're used to driving a Chevy, you can sit down in a Honda or a Toyota or a Tesla and find what you need to find, and you don't generally complain about it. Or most people don't generally complain about it. And I view, computers in the same sort of way. So you're jumping from Windows to Linux, or Windows to Mac OS, or Mac OS to Linux. Sure, things are going to be in slightly different locations, but unless you're in a position where you're running a business or have specific needs that have a requirement for specific software, um, you can get work done on all three. It's just one of those things. Um, Also, even though there are other courses out there, your subscribers will want to support yours. I appreciate that, Joe. I'm hoping that that will be true, and You know, I I'm going to hopefully be building this course out. I'll probably start with like a Rescuezilla and then start building other things out. But I think Rescuezilla would be like a low hanging fruit class that I could do, in 3 weekends maybe. So it might take me a month to build it, record the videos, add the text, and exercises or whatever, and get it live. The Linux commands, I'd probably want to spend a little bit more time on that. Um, but that might be something that I could launch, maybe by December or the beginning of 2023. Good morning, Catherine. Welcome. So, um, yeah, I I appreciate you, Joe, for the encouragement on the idea of doing a class. You know, other than the management I worked for at the time, the years I spent teaching were uh, very fulfilling, and I'd love to get to a point where I'm doing that again in some capacity, and building a community around it. Excuse me. If I had people I were working with that uh, wanted to also do classes and different things, then I would consider building up a VPS with WordPress and one of the learning management packages on that, and just controlling the whole kit and caboodle. But since it's going to be just me right now, I'm I'm going to dabble with the I think it's Thinkific and Teachable, which were the two most highly recommended ones to me. I want to dig into the dig into the pricing and the pro con matrix for a little bit, and see where I want to put the class. But I've done some outlines. I have a general idea of how I want to do this, and yeah, we'll see. Um, okay. Can I use your brain for a second? What is the most secure private form of Linux for everyday use? We know Windows and Mac take a lot of liberties on analytics and advertising. Ooh. Um. So if I wanted to go, um, if I wanted to go super secure, um, I would probably look at Tails. Um, so it's a 1.3 gig download. Um, everything, yeah, it says everything you do disappears automatically when you shut down Tails. Um, there's a persistent storage configuration. There's, yeah, leave no trace on the internet. I have not gone down this road yet. This is something I'm curious about, but I've not done a deep dive on Tails. But if I wanted to go, way down the rabbit hole of secure, um, I would be seriously looking at Tails as an option. Um, and they've got options where you can run it on any of the major operating systems. Um, does not work on smartphones or tablets. You know, I'm curious about this. I've watched a few videos on it, um, but yeah, that's probably where I would look. Um, you know, again, generally speaking, most Linux distributions are going to be safer than your general Windows or Mac OS install. However, some Linux distributions come with an available firewall, but it's not enabled, kind of like XP did back in the day. Um, there are additional tweaks that you can make. Having fail to ban installed, or there's an alternative to fail to ban to help protect like your SSH server. There are a lot of little tweaks that you can make along the way to make your general Linux distribution more secure, and take it to a level uh, above an out of box install with minor tweaks. Even I know in some of my videos I've shown a partial lockdown of OpenSSH server, requiring um, you can't SSH in as root. You can't log in with a password. You have to use SSH keys, things of that nature. That you can just continue to tweak and lock things down further. And I use for most of my systems, I use. Now I'm having a brain fart. Um, not those. Um, Linus. I knew it'd be one of the first things to come up, but I was having problems putting my tongue right on it. So I'll use Linus. Um, as a baseline testing tool for my personal systems. They do have a commercial version of this, the enterprise version, where you can test multiple machines and get reports and all this kind of stuff. You can do compliance testing and all that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I'm not a big believer in silver bullet solutions. I think Tails sounds very interesting. Um, I don't think there's one be all end all fix for most secure type of thing. Um, Chris, welcome. Linus is great to audit systems. Yes, I use that quite a bit. Chris, have you used the enterprise version of Linus, or do you just use the free version? Just out of curiosity, if you're willing to divulge. Have you done anything with fully portable USB sticks for the OS, as in using the CPU RAM of a PC, but the actual OS and storage is on the stick? I have not, but I I know that there are people out there that do. Um, you know, I've contemplated the idea, working at a public library. I've contemplated the idea that I'm going to get some smart A kid that's going to come in and decide, oh, well, let's reboot the system and I'm just going to have full access and use some random Linux distribution and go nuts and do whatever I want. And do exactly, the boot off from a USB stick type of thing. Which has led me to, locking down BIOS settings and password protecting things more than I would usually do on a system. Um, but yeah, I mean, there are reasons that people would want to do that. I continue to maintain that if you're going to do international traveling, then the best way to take a computer with you is um, a Chromebook. Because you power wash that sucker before you go to the airport, and when you get to your destination, you run through the setup, and then before you travel back home, you power wash the sucker again, and then if any uh, authorities want to search your computer, you can say, "Oh, there's nothing on it," and you wouldn't be lying about it. I just um, I think that's one advantage that a Chromebook has with their power wash system, and um, you know that way you're not subject to international searches of your data or anything of the sort. Um, all right, just the free edition. Um, I add a bootable partition to every flash drive and external hard drive I have. The partition contains either parted magic or Rescuezilla. Makes a great rescue system and cloning system. Yep. I tend to have my most recent USB stick is a 256 gig stick, and I generally install Ventoy on all my USB bootable stuff. Um, and this particular one, I don't have it set up this way currently, but it's so easy to set up that it's something I want to experiment with, and that's having a dedicated storage partition on that drive, where I could dump a drive image from a small drive, Um, but yeah. So that's a good point on Chromebook flush. Yep. Just add a FAT32 partition at the beginning of the drive and dump the ISO contents to it. Add a second NTFS partition for data storage. All right. Never heard of Power Wash. Might have to pick up a Chromebook. Yeah. So Power Wash, unless they've changed the name of it again, Power Wash is the name of their. It's like a three-finger or three key combination that allows you to basically return it to um, factory default settings. So, have you heard of Graphene OS for phones? I think you can take a Pixel and root it. Sounds interesting. I've heard of Graphene OS. I've not looked into it terribly deeply. Um, I've thought about currently I'm running a Pixel 3a XL and it's dropping off the supported phone list for updates. Um, at least new version OS updates. I think it'll still receive security updates for some time to come yet. But I was looking at a Pixel 7 or Pixel 7 Pro um, as a replacement, but since I own the 3A XL outright, I kind of want to keep it around. And once I've migrated to the new phone, I'll take this one and make sure it's carrier unlocked and then play with one of these replacement OSs. I think it will be interesting. Um, oh, flying to Switzerland tomorrow. Safe travels to you, Catherine. There's also Calyx for Android for those in need or want to be Google spy free. Yeah. Um, I've not heard of Calyx, but yeah, there are a number of tools out there. Um, there are a lot of um, um, custom Android distributions, I guess they call them. So these are based on the Android open source project, the non Google-fied ones, and I guess looking at stuff that's in active development. So there's Calyx OS. Um, it's been around since 2019. Google and Xiaomi phones. Color OS, Copperhead OS. There's a number of these that are out there. There's Graphene OS. Active development started in 2019. Security and privacy focused. Lead developer worked on Copperhead OS until a dispute between the co-founders over licensing caused his departure. Interesting. So yeah, there's Lineage OS. I knew that one's been around for quite a while. Official successor to CyanogenMod, which I used CyanogenMod quite a number of years ago. I bought a Barnes & Noble Nook Color e-reader with the express purpose of turning it into an Android tablet when they're weren't any real Android tablets on the market. And in part because it would allow me to read both Barnes and Noble Nook books and Amazon Kindle books on the same device. So, paranoid Android. Yeah. So there are a number of these out there. It's the thing to watch out for though is you want to keep an eye on what their Android version is. Anything 12 or 12.1 is going to be current. Anything older than that, I wouldn't touch with a stick. Let's see, latest release. Yeah, so they've got their own internal version numbers than the Android version. So, kind of an interesting thing. I do want to take a look at that and see what happens there. Yeah, say hello to Proton Mail for me, which is based in Switzerland. Yep. Called Calyx OS. Louis Rossman had an interview with the Calyx OS founder. Nice. Love to see a Calyx versus Graphene video. Well, if I do in fact end up with a new phone this fall, I will definitely add that to my list. I will definitely add that to my list. In fact, I'm going to screenshot this just so I have the idea recorded. So yeah, that's all good there. Oh, I remember what I wanted to look at briefly here. So the settings that we looked at for in the Gnome settings said that it would show the network drives. So let's go ahead and connect to DAW file, music, anonymous. All right, so this has been my little pet project over the last couple of weeks. I have been taking my CD collection and ripping them to FLAC files. Yeah, so I've got a boatload of CDs, and I think I might have come close to the 50% mark. Maybe. And yes, I do have somewhat of an eclectic taste in music. But yeah, there's a variety of artists here, and some of these are CDs that I have been given. Many of them are ones that I've bought over the years. But So there are a couple reasons that I've taken this project back up. So um, I wanted to prove out a couple of hunches. So I ended up buying a slot load um, CD drive just to make it quicker, because a lot of the Dell Optiplex machines have those slimline ones that you actually have to click the CD in place to use. So I wanted to make sure that I could, in fact, pass that through in Proxmox to the VM, and that works splendidly. The other thing is, come here, take a look. I put DAW file on a 50 gigabyte virtual hard drive. In hindsight, I wish I would have doubled that to 100, but that gets to my next point. So, as a precaution for all of this, I've been using Free File Sync, which I would guess most of you recognize from a previous video. Do we not have? Now that's mounted, and make sure this one's mounted as well. Okay, so I've been using Free File Sync to synchronize all my music from the DAW file server over to my NAS. So I'm trying to put my money where my mouth is at. You know, these are tools that I've used on the channel before and advocated for on the channel. So I'm using them to keep this all going and backed up, and everything is good. Now, part of the reason for staying on top of this as much as I do, which is like twice a day, I sync stuff over to the NAS, is that with such a small virtual drive in this VM, this DAW file VM, what I want to do with this is, once it gets, just under 10 gigs free, I'm going to boot into either Parted Magic or Rescuezilla. I'm going to expand the drive. Well, I've got to do that in Proxmox first. I'll expand the drive to give more space, and then I'll expand the partitions in Parted Magic, likely, which is, Gparted, whatever. And, make sure that that comes out all right. Now, the other thing I may do with this, just so I don't end up in a situation where it's unbootable if I mess up the partitions, I may just take a backup with Rescuezilla first. But at the same time, the nice thing about having everything synced over to the NAS is that even if I bork the VM, I've got all the music files backed up. So that is what I'm doing there. Now, um, DAFile has a shortcoming that I'm aware of, and there are a couple ways I'm looking to circumvent this. So, long term, I view DAFile as my um, go-to choice for easy CD ripping. Right? It's great that um, it's got zero tier built in, so you can connect to your zero tier network and you can access this outside your home without punching holes in your firewall, yada yada yada. Okay, but um, somebody had brought up about, there's no real sense of users in DAFile. There's no access to the terminal to do extra customizations. The releases only come once or twice a year. And all these are valid concerns. So I have also on the channel looked at Volumio, which honestly did impress me. I installed and I had this running for a while. And, this has a number of other services and different things that you can connect into. There's a I think there's a charge for this though. For certain parts of it. Okay, it's a free download. Maybe it's just some of the features that they charge for. Oh, they've got a free version and a premium version, right? Okay. So then there is, was it this window? I don't remember what the name of that was either. Self-hosted to Spotify. Okay, so I should have bookmarked this. So I hold that thought for a minute. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so there was an article I saw earlier this week, and there was a self-hosted alternative to Spotify that, again, the example they used, and I don't think it was Funk Whale, but this one also runs in Docker. But the alternative, the install they were using for this particular piece of software showed them installing it on a virtual private server in the cloud, and making it available from there. It installs Docker on top of Ubuntu or Debian or whatever your favorite server-based distro is. And then you upload your music, yada yada yada, and you've got it available anywhere. Well, and the one thing that the person pointed out is that one of the nice features of that was that it had a make available offline type of feature similar to Spotify and some of the others, so that if you lose internet connection, you're not losing all access to your music. So there's that. Now, since that is not something I would really use unless I were going on a trip, my thought again was run it on a VM in my apartment and use zero tier, even if I have to manually install it, and then connect that way. That way I'm not paying for a VPS. I don't have to leave it running all the time. And, I've got enough pieces set up for my home network that if I wanted to start up that VM and I'm not home, I've got ways to do it. So that's something else I've been looking at. Seems like it started with an N. Come on. Let's see. History. Thing is, I don't remember if I watched it at home or if I had that playing in the background while I was at work. I think I may have watched it at work. Anyways, so yeah, I'm probably gonna take a look at that. So my thought process is really threefold. DAW file for CD ripping. Volumio will be sort of a small form factor NUC style appliance that gets hooked up to my surround system with a DAC, a digital to analog converter. And then this third piece will be for on the go, that I'll make stuff available outside of the apartment to myself via the zero tier network. Excuse me. So, it's kind of a long-term view of it. But that's one of the things that I've thought about doing. I currently have a subscription to Pandora, and I'd just assume not pay them anymore. I found that I'm not using it near as much as I once did. And if I can get things set up the way I want it, then I won't have a need to pay for it any longer. So that's sort of where I'm at there, I guess. But yeah, all three projects, for me, they have different purposes. Now, since I don't have family members that use my network and I can make DAW file available through zero tier, I could probably get away just using DAW file and then using Volumio for hooking up to the the surround system with the DAC. But what's the point of making it that simple? Might as well make it a little bit of a challenge and little multi-layered. Anyways, um, had problems with Wayland on the new Ubuntu, went back to Pop! OS, but I really like Wayland working better with touchscreens. Yeah. I'm kind of touchscreen phobic, I guess you could say. I really don't like touchscreens, and that's why my next laptop, when I replace my 2014 MacBook Pro, probably next year, it's going to be one of three things. It's either going to be another MacBook Pro, or the HP Dev 1 that has Pop! OS pre-installed, or it'll be a laptop from System 76, which also has Pop! OS pre-installed. So none of which come with touchscreens. I I don't know. To me, I try to keep my screens clean, and putting fingerprints on them defeats the purpose. So, yeah. To each their own. I've never been a fan of touchscreens on computers. Funny you should mention CD ripping. I had an internal discussion with myself the other day that we have no ownership of music anymore. Spotify, Apple Music, etc. Yep. Um, so I've been collecting CDs since 1989. I've got somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 to 400 CDs in that time. um, so, yeah, I I resisted very much paying for a music service. I've got the lowest tier $5 a month Pandora right now. Um, but if I can do away with that, or only subscribe for short periods of time, and not worry too much about not having it available all the time, that would be a bonus. But yes, I agree about the ownership of music. It boggles my mind that um, it's changed so drastically, and people aren't questioning it more. Love Zero Tier, very cool. You can do that. Any thoughts on Zero Tier on their cloud versus self-hosted Zero Tier? So Zach, I have not yet set up a self-hosted Zero Tier. Um, if I were to use it in a business setting, I would be inclined to at least look at the self-hosted version, and run it on, uh, pick your favorite um, VPS service, I guess. For my purposes, since I'm just making things temporarily available on a home/home lab network, um, I don't have a real big issue with the version hosted on their cloud. Um, it's not something that I use day in and day out, um, to a very deep level. Um, and that's where it comes down to your use case. Um, if you want the extra security, if you want the extra control over things, then yeah, it might be worth it to do self-hosted, um, and um, go that route. I use their cloud, but for privacy, I might someday change to self-hosted. Yeah, I am interested, and at some point, I'll probably break down and do an install and maybe build a video off from that experience on setting up the self-hosted version and at least build it out for the video, use it for a few weeks or a month, and then shut down the VPS and go from there. But um, it like yeah, I mean, it really comes down to use case. If I were using it more, then I would be more inclined to go with the self-hosted version and spend the time doing that deep dive into the system and making sure that I know enough to troubleshoot if something goes wrong. Because that's the other side of this is it's great to self-host, but are you going to be able to support yourself if something goes wrong that that you need to be able to fix it in some way? And right now, I do not have that level of knowledge with zero tier. I tend to be more of an IT generalist. I would say probably my deepest level of knowledge is in Linux and Mac OS, and more so on the Linux side of things. But even just saying Linux by itself, that is such a broad category that you can't be an expert in all of it. It, in my opinion, excuse me. In my opinion, it comes down to having a solid methodology for problem solving and um, being able to admit to yourself when you're in over your head and need to ask for help. Um, Now, I tend to be stubborn when it comes to some things, and um, sometimes I view things as a challenge for longer than I should. But it seems like the older I get, the more willing I am to ask for help, or at least to bounce ideas off from people to make sure that I'm not way out in left field when it comes to logically thinking through a problem. So, um, so yeah, I guess that will about wrap things up. We are almost at 90 minutes, and that's usually my cutoff for a Sunday live stream. Um, this has been fun. Um, I hope everybody that's here has got something out of this. Um, and it's been a good way to pass an hour and a half away. Um, but yeah, so I know I've alluded to thinking about it before, but everybody heard it here first that there is a class of some nature in the works, I've got to the outlining stage of it now. I just need to take that outline and break it down into chunks that I can use to record some videos, and then get into either Thinkific or Teachable and start building out a course, and then start making that available. Um, you know, um, I don't know. Well, I will be promoting it through the channel to some degree at least. And I may call on some people to beta test the course before it goes on full visibility on that platform. So, on that note, thank you everybody for coming out today. Wasn't a big crowd, but it was. This was fun, and we got to look at this new version of our upcoming version of Ubuntu that'll be released in October. So there are likely still some changes coming through. Looks like they did not add the network share to that. To the panel, which I thought it said it was going to. Ubuntu desktop. Was that under appearance? No, that was the background. Oh well. Dock behavior. Include network volumes. Okay. Well, I guess we can try one other one here. Come to other locations. We can do Lord Nikon. And we'll do multimedia. Okay, so we got that on the sidebar here. But it did not show up on the panel, or the dock rather. Okay, so that might be a little bit of a glitch. If we turn it off and turn it back on again, nope. All right. It is still all considered alpha level software, but does show up on the file manager. All right, so anyways, thank you everybody for coming out. If you have not done so, it would be great if you'd take a moment to like the video. And after the video's over, after the live stream is over, if you want to leave some comments on it, that would be wonderful too. All this stuff works towards helping the YouTube algorithm recommend the channel more. And I'm always looking for ways to do that. So, USB Tux, good to see you again here, although we're just closing out for the day. So yeah, I appreciate all of you coming out on a regular basis, and for the feedback that everybody seems willing to give during the live stream. It's all very helpful in trying to plan out how I want the future of this channel to unfold, and just goes towards building more of an ecosystem around this whole idea rather than just strictly YouTube stuff. So I think the next phase of this is going to be a class or a few classes, and it's just getting those built out and made available to people. So on that note, thank you all once again. Stay safe over the coming week, and I will see you in the next video, or might be the next live stream. So have a great day, everybody.